33 candidates competed for the job, but the CEO discovered her hidden struggle. Incredible choice. The conference room buzzes with anticipation as the first candidate enters, a spotlight illuminating a sea of well-dressed contenders waiting for their moment to shine. Yet, seated at the far end, Sarah's heart races, the shadow of her father's decline overshadowing the ambitious dreams she has carried for years. Her fingers fidget nervously with the pen in her pocket, a feeble attempt to channel focus while guilt gnaws at her soul, an unresolved weight. Could she really compete with those who have yet to experience the burdens of caregiving? Even as she listens to the confident pitches echoing around her, an unsettling truth creeps into her thoughts. Will they see her only as the single mother managing a chaotic household with 2 young children and a father slipping further from recognition? Or will they overlook her talent completely, as they have before? The echoing laughter of her colleagues seems to mock her insecurities, reinforcing the sense that her career ambitions are lost in the encroaching shadows of her personal life. That tension heights as Nathan, the creative director, makes eye contact. His reassuring smile sends a flicker of warmth through her, a thread of hope woven through the fabric of despair. He sees her sketches, the ones inspired by her father's forgotten artistry, and acknowledges the beauty buried beneath the weight of self-doubt. But now, hope feels like a flimsy thread against the torrents of doubt crashing over her. Will his acknowledgement be enough to conquer the mental labyrinth she finds herself lost within? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the interviews progress, whispers of mismanaged hires and systemic favoritism ripple through the agency like a restless wind. Sarah feels the walls closing in, the tension tangible in the air. Can she align her conscience with the cutthroat needs of the marketing world? Will revealing the agency's hidden injustices risk the stability she works tirelessly to maintain for her family? With each thought, her urgency intensifies, drawing her closer to a moral precipice. But amid this internal brawl, a striking realization crashes over her. She uncovers sketches long buried within her father's belongings, forgotten reflections of artistic genius that reveal the vibrant life he once led. The bittersweet inspiration reignites an unquenchable desire to honor not only her father but also herself, the part of her that has always felt overshadowed. Yet, the gnawing fear lingers, whispering doubts of failure and fear of the consequences that speaking out might bring. At the intersection of truth and ambition, Sarah gasps, her breath hitching. As the final interview slides into view, the tumult within her reaches a breaking point. She stands at a threshold not just for a job, but for her identity, for her father's legacy, and for the fragile balance of family. In this moment of desperate clarity, what direction will she choose? Will she find the courage to unleash her truth? Or will the fear of stepping into spotlight keep her chained to her doubts, lingering in obscurity as the world spins around her? The final interview approached with the relentless tick of the clock echoing in Sarah's ears. Each tick felt like an impending wave of judgment crashing toward her. All she could think about was her father, his laughter, the way he taught her to appreciate artistry in its many forms, and how those lessons felt like they were slipping away, much like his memories. She sensed the room swallowing her courage, the certainty of her past colliding with the uncertainty of her future. Inside, she wrestled with a torrent of emotions. How long had it been since she allowed herself to dream? Art faded into the background of her obligations and the demands of daily life had overshadowed her passion. But stepping forward now could mean reconnecting with that fragmented part of her. With a deep breath, she clung to the truth that Nathan had seen in her sketches. Perhaps she was more than a caregiver. Perhaps she still had value in this competitive arena. When it was finally her turn, she stood, adjusting her skirt slightly, and stepped into the conference room. The CEO, a formidable woman with sharp features and an intense gaze, looked her up and down as if reading her very essence. Sarah felt exposed, a palpable current of her hidden struggles electrifying the air between them. "So, Sarah, tell us why you think you deserve this position," the CEO directed matter-of-factly, her tone demanding and unwavering. Sarah's heart raced, her mind sparking with a flood of possibilities. She could recite industry buzzwords, dazzle them with metrics, or play it safe and offer a polished persona, but that would feel disingenuous. Instead, she hesitated, then boldly leaned into the light of her truth. "I believe I bring a unique perspective," she began, her voice firm, "because my experiences have shaped the way I approach challenges. I've learned to create art out of chaos." A ripple of surprise swept through the room. In that moment, she chose audacity over uncertainty. She described how managing her father's decline had refined her ability to think creatively under pressure. Sarah spoke of her sketches, the dreams captured in ink and smudged with the tears of her reality. Each stroke reflected resilience, vulnerability, and her desire to honor her father's legacy, not just his absence. The CEO's brow furrowed slightly, considering her words. "And what about your commitment to a job that requires full dedication? Can you balance this with your," she paused, the weight of the word hovering, "responsibilities?" "I can't ignore my responsibilities, they define my journey," Sarah countered, her passion lining the edges of her voice. "But they've also equipped me with the ability to adapt, to pivot strategies when things aren't ideal. I believe that my experiences as a caregiver grant me an understanding of empathy within leadership. Good ideas don't always come from a desk, sometimes they come from moments of fragility." As she concluded, the silence in the room transformed into a palpable respect. She felt vulnerable yet empowered, having brought her truth into the light. The moment stretched, both exhilarating and terrifying. Was it enough to secure the position, or had she merely laid bare the parts of her that could be judged? "I admire your candor," the CEO finally said, a hint of intrigue flashing in her sharp gaze. "Let us talk more about how we can leverage your skills." A sense of optimism blossomed within Sarah, but the rush of adrenaline was tinged with dread. There was one question lingering in her mind: how do you reconcile ambition with the chaos of life? As she left the room, a single phrase stirred within her, a challenge to redefine her narrative. What if the answer to that question required not just acceptance but the courage to confront her greatest fears? With newfound resolve, Sarah took a step into the hallway, knowing that the most significant conversations were yet to unfold. Would she find the strength to claim her voice, or would the shadows of doubt close in again, threatening the path she yearned to carve? As the interview room faded into the distance, Sarah felt a whirlwind of emotions swirl within her. The uncertainty that had accompanied her for months began a slow pivot, gradually morphing into a cautious determination. Each step down the hallway was a silent affirmation that she had not just spoken, she had revealed the core of who she was. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed almost imperceptibly, reflecting her internal dialogue. She had completed an interview, but more than that, she had shared the nuances of her journey, her fears, her resilience, and her creative spark. Yet, questions swirled around her like leaves in autumn. Would the CEO genuinely see the potential within her distorted reflections? With each breath, the memory of her father's encouragement rooted in her mind. He had often told her that passion was vital for creating change. She could almost hear his voice gently coaxing her to defy the conventional pathways, urging her to embrace the uncertainty. With this new inspiration, she returned to her workspace, not with trepidation, but with a flicker of hope. The following day was a whirlwind of decisions, each small act infused with fresh purpose. Sarah approached her desk, normally a cluttered space of post-it notes and to-do lists, ready to refocus. It no longer felt like merely a caregiving station, it was her launching pad. With determined fingers, she began sketching. Ideas poured forth, no longer bound by the restraints of fear but inspired by clarity. Yet, like any art, the colors came with shadows. As the day wore on, she couldn't shake the dread that seeped into her thoughts. What if the conversation with the CEO had been a facade? What if her vulnerabilities had exposed her weaknesses rather than highlighting her strengths? The uncertainty grew heavier, pressing down like a weight against her chest. During a brief moment of respite, she checked her phone. A message flashed from Nathan. "How'd it go? Your sketches have been thriving in your absence." The casual affirmation was a balm, nudging her toward the crucial decision she had been avoiding. Should she risk sharing her most recent work with him? The question gnawed at her. Vulnerability had its price, especially when weighed against the potential judgment from those whose opinions mattered. But what if sharing her new sketches could reinforce her resolve? She could either allow self-doubt to dictate her path or take a leap, risking exposure for the sake of growth. Gathering her courage, she selected a few images and sent them to Nathan. "Hey, I've been inspired," her message read, tinged with a hint of anxiety. Moments passed like hours before his reply came through. "Wow, Sarah. These are stunning. The depth in your lines shows such growth." The affirmation sparked something deep within her, a flicker of recognition that she hadn't seen in herself for far too long. With each passing moment, the fear began to dissipate, replaced by a burgeoning sense of self-worth. Maybe she didn't need to justify her past struggles anymore, but rather celebrate the evolution they had initiated, yet juxtaposed against this rising confidence was an undertow of urgency that she couldn't ignore. The CEO's interest was piqued, but where would this newfound boldness lead her? As night fell, staring at her sketchbook filled with ideas, Sarah faced the daunting question: how far was she willing to go to honor herself, her art, and her father's legacy in a professional landscape fraught with uncertainty? With her heart racing, Sarah made a decision. This time, she would not simply wait for opportunities to unfold, she would carve out her space. Tomorrow, she would seek feedback from her peers not as an act of desperation, but as a step toward ownership of her journey. With a renewed resolve, the whispers of doubt grew quieter, but a persistent thought lingered: what would she do if the opportunity to share her work led to confrontation, or worse, rejection from those she sought validation from? The following morning, the dawn's light streamed into Sarah's apartment, painting everything in golden hues. The atmosphere buzzed with her lingering resolve, each ray exaggerating the sense of possibility that danced just out of reach. As she dressed, every garment felt like an armor for the monumental challenge ahead. Today, she would share her sketches with her colleagues. Her art was ready for the world, and for the critiques it might invite. Arriving at the office, the usual chatter enveloped her, but the vibrant discussions felt secondary to the one looming in her mind. She pushed through the corridor towards the design room, her pulse quickening with every step. This pivotal moment was her chance not just to showcase her work, but to validate her own instincts, her creative journey. She had felt the echo of her father's voice, each cautionary tale now morphed into motivation as she recalled his words about the transformative power of art. With each breath, Sarah's confidence lay at the edge, thrumming, delicate, and easily shaken by doubt. The room was filled with her peers, their varied talents both intimidating and inspiring. She arranged her sketches on the large table as they gathered, posture straightened and heart racing, a mix of excitement and trepidation washing over her. When Nathan walked in, his charisma lit up the space. "Ready, superstar?" he teased, a knowing grin making Sarah chuckle softly. It wasn't just the banter, it was the acknowledgement of her journey that tinged the atmosphere with warmth. And yet, as the team turned their attention towards her, a hush descended. She felt exposed, a tight knot forming in her stomach. "All right, everyone. Sarah has some pieces she'd like to share," Nathan announced, his voice steady and encouraging. She took a breath, feeling as if the very air had thickened, weighing on her like lead. "This is the first piece," Sarah began, voice quavering. Arguments of self-doubt flooded her mind, yet the need for validation propelled her forward. As she described her vision, her fears entwined in a narrative that led to catharsis, she saw her colleagues' expressions shift. They leaned in, mulling the depth of her work. "Wow, you really captured raw emotion here," one colleague interjected, breaking the tension. That simple acknowledgement unraveled the knots in her chest. Gradually, each onlooker added their thoughts, sparking an engaging critique. Some suggestions felt incisive, while others were constructive nudges. Each word, a chisel against her insecurities, solidified her progress rather than diminishing it. This room, once intimidating, transformed into an arena for growth, for discussion, a community formed not by rivalry but by unity in creation. As the critiques became dialogues, Sarah sensed her voice strengthening amidst the noise of self-doubt. She became increasingly present, channeling her passion, vulnerability, and expertise into the conversation. There was an undeniable shift. She was not just a participant. She was shaping the narrative of her journey, yet, despite the collaborative energy swirling around her, a lingering question fizzled in the back of her mind: have I truly stepped beyond my fears, or am I just dancing on the edges of them? The specter of confrontation loomed, muted but ever present. As the session wrapped up, Sarah felt buoyed by support, but another thought emerged: what awaited her when the enthusiasm subsided and the real judgment started. With an electric mix of excitement and apprehension, Sarah gathered her prints. Nathan caught her gaze, an unspoken challenge reflective in his eyes, reinforcing her resolve to carry this newfound confidence into uncharted territories. They deconquered this hurdle together, but was she prepared for the next? As she descended into her thoughts, a message pinged on her phone, a reminder of an even greater opportunity on the horizon. A networking event was coming up, touted as a doorway to influential figures in their industry. Would she step in, fully embracing her fragility to forge connections, or succumb to fear? The decision awaited, presenting an urgent and electrifying fork in the path before her. The day blurred into a series of tasks. Sarah found herself at her desk, sketches stacked neatly to one side, her attention flickering between the designs and the message about the networking event that lingered like a siren call. She tapped her pen against the tabletop, anxiety spiraling as questions tugged at her conscience. Would she seize the chance to connect with industry moguls, or would she cower away, allowing the moment to slip through her fingers? Each tick of the clock echoed louder, its rhythm contriving a symphony of doubt. Nathan's earlier encouragement resonated in the corners of her mind, but could she truly transform that motivation into tangible action? She had fought to present herself as an artist, yet the professional world still felt foreign, like a daunting landscape where her insecurities whispered, "You don't belong here." "Sarah, are you all right?" A colleague's voice, warm and familiar, pulled her back from the precipice of self-doubt. It was Jamie, whose own talent matched her creative fervor. "Yeah, just thinking about the event." The facade of casualness hovered between them, but Jamie's inquisitive gaze pierced through the layers of Sarah's uncertainty. "Thinking or avoiding?" She stepped forward, a playful challenge masked in concern. The statement landed heavily on Sarah, highlighting a reality she didn't want to confront. "It's just, what if I can't hold my own?" Jamie crossed her arms, tilting her head slightly, evaluating. "In a room full of people, you don't have to fight alone. You're an artist, Sarah. You already have a voice. You just need to use it." Her words stung and soothed all at once. The intimacy of reassurance connected, Jamie committed to seeing Sarah's potential beyond her constraints. But the root of her doubt twisted internally, rising like an insistent specter. In an impulsive decision, Sarah rolled her chair away from her desk. She stood, the energy in her limbs sparked into motion. "You know what? I think I need to go. I have sketches to share and stories to tell." The vibrant urgency coursed through her like a bolt of electric realization. As she prepped her portfolio, the act of gathering her work felt less like a chore and more like a declaration of her narrative, a proclamation that she would not shy away. Each drawing embodied a piece of her struggle, raw emotions poured onto paper, each stroke marrying joy with pain, each line depicting resilience. Those sketches were her testament to growth, a bridge between her fear and her potential. Later, as Sarah stood in front of the mirror, she practiced her introduction, instinctively smoothing her blazer, recalibrating her shoulders. Yet, behind the veneer of confidence, a storm brewed. The crowd would be filled with established professionals, their judgment reflecting years of experience she was yet to accumulate. But then she recalled Nathan's encouragement, the supportive feedback she had just received, and Jamie's reminder echoing, she had a voice. Perhaps vulnerability could loiter in the room, an artist simply connecting through their shared love of creativity. Fueled by determination, Sarah stepped into her shoes and grabbed her portfolio, feeling the weight shift from burden to opportunity. As she left her apartment, she spoke aloud, "I will embrace this, flaws and all." Coming down the building steps, another ping drew her back into momentous reality. It was a text from Nathan. "You in for the networking event tonight? Let's make some magic happen." Her heart raced, she felt the heat of possibility. It was one thing to have drawn courage, but facing imminent judgments, how far would she go to prove just how much she had developed? The question loomed larger than any roomful of critics. With every footfall carrying her towards the unknown, Sarah rehearsed her story again, this time with a flicker of audacity. What if tonight could redefine everything? The moment stretched before her as she turned the corner. It would be a confrontation with her deepest fears, and this time, she wouldn't shy away. She'd stand her ground, just as she gathered her breath. She spotted familiar faces ahead, their confidence stark against her unresolved anxiety. Why did standing amongst them feel like an act of rebellion? The time had come to step into the light. But would she sink or soar in the face of the judgments looming in the air? As Sarah approached the event venue, a sleek high-rise with glass doors reflecting the vibrant city lights, her heart drummed in tempo with her mounting apprehension. She stood outside for a moment, her hand hovering over the handle, feeling the cool metal beneath her fingertips as she absorbed the atmosphere. The chatter of laughter and conversation seeped through the entrance, saturating her skin with anticipation mingled with dread. Stepping inside felt like plunging into a pool of industry elite. The room was dominated by well-dressed figures, their poised exteriors punctuated by animated discussions about trends and breakthroughs in their fields. Sarah's breath caught momentarily. She scanned the space, noting the clusters of people immersed in conversation, her internal dialogue swirling around doubt. Would her voice find a space among these established artists and designers? Instinctively, she clutched her portfolio to her chest, a subconscious shield against the intimidating energy surrounding her. But even in this moment of vulnerability, there was a flicker of resolve. She had come too far to let herself be swallowed by fear. Each step she took was deliberate, fostering an increasing sense of agency in a place that felt alien. She was not merely a spectator, she was an artist with a story. A voice broke through her reverie. "Sarah! You made it!" It was Nathan, his warm smile invitingly infectious. He drew her in, and suddenly the walls seemed to close a little, creating an intimate space among the chaos. "Thanks for the encouragement," Sarah replied, her voice steady, surprising herself with its firmness. There was something about Nathan's unwavering support that fortified her spirit. "I'm here to share my work, to find connections." He nodded with genuine interest. "That's the spirit. Let us start by meeting a few people," he suggested, gesturing toward a small gathering engrossed in animated discourse. As Sarah followed him, she observed not just the figures in the room but what they represented, a collection of dreams turned tangible through hard work and innovation. Her insecurities tried to rear their head, reminding her that she still felt like a newcomer. Yet, tonight was about exploration, not competition. Maybe what she deemed as inadequacies could be perceived differently, stories waiting to be told. Nathan introduced her to a couple of acquaintances. Each handshake felt like a negotiation, an exchange of energy where she needed to assert herself. Every question asked demanded a balance between humility and pride. She was not just presenting her art but offering fragments of herself. She was learning how to transform discomfort into dialogue, forging connections beyond mere aesthetics. After several interactions, Sarah began to feel her confidence swell. She spoke about her sketches, weaving the narratives behind them with authenticity. Those fragments of vulnerability, once her heavy chains, now glimmered as radars guiding her through conversations. "Your perspective is fresh," a woman remarked, her interest piqued as she leaned closer to inspect Sarah's portfolio. "There's a depth here that isn't easily captured. How do you approach your subjects?" Sarah felt the warmth of pride flourish within her, a response formed effortlessly in her mind. I draw from my experiences, from the chaos and clarity of life. Every emotion infused into my work is a reflection of my journey." The words flowed, unrestrained and genuine, connecting on a level she hadn't expected. As the evening unfolded, Sarah moved between conversations, gathering threads of inspiration and allowing her narrative to evolve. She hardly noticed the passing time, immersed in moments that ignited meaningful exchanges. Yet, as the crowd began to disperse, a lingering suspicion crept in. Could she maintain this sense of self beyond tonight? Would she continue to see her struggles as a source of strength, rather than the haunting reminders of inadequacy they had once been? Nathan reappeared, a thoughtful look crossing his face. "You have something special, you know. Don't lose that perspective. You're only at the beginning." His eyes sparkled with conviction, but a new doubt gnawed at her. What if tonight was an anomaly, the adrenaline-fueled environment where vulnerability masqueraded as courage? What awaited her back in her solitary studio, cut off from this lively exchange? Before she could voice her uncertainty, Nathan added, "Are you ready to share your work at the gallery next month? I think people would love to see your growth." The weight of opportunity felt both exhilarating and daunting. Could she channel tonight's experience into future endeavors, turning fleeting connections into lasting ones? As the final words hung in the air, another question took root in her mind, demanding attention. Was she ready to redefine her artistic journey, and if so, what sacrifices would she need to embrace this transformation fully? As she glanced around at the faces, their potential invitation lingered just out of reach, forcing her to confront the undeniable truth: the time to embrace change, to evolve beyond her insecurities, was upon her. The hum of the city resonated in Sarah's mind as she stepped back onto the street, feeling the chill of night wrapping around her like an unwelcome scarf. Each stride away from the event felt heavier, punctuated by thoughts that buzzed like angry bees. She had spoken her truth, but doubts clung to her like shadows, creeping into the recesses of her mind. The voices of assurance from earlier began to fade, replaced by a gnawing uncertainty. Was she genuinely worthy of this newfound recognition? In the days that followed, the excitement of the event walked hand in hand with her unease. Sarah returned to her studio, but the vibrant energy she had felt among her peers seemed to dissipate as she faced the blank canvas before her. It intimidated her, gazing back as if questioning her resolve. The solitude of her workspace felt heavy, too quiet, almost accusatory, an echo chamber breeding self-doubt. She sank into a chair, fingers tracing the edges of her portfolio. Nathan's words lingered on her mind. "You're only at the beginning." Yet that beginning felt infinitely far. Questions swarmed. What if she faltered? What if she failed to replicate the passion that had fueled her conversations? The motivation she had felt was transforming, morphing into a sinkhole of fear, threatening to swallow her whole. Determined not to be the woman who allowed her hesitation to paralyze her, Sarah opened her sketchpad and began to draw. The pencil glided hesitantly over the page at first, lacking the conviction she craved. But as she allowed her thoughts to flow, ideas started spilling out. The chaos of her internal struggle began to translate into swirling images, abstract, jagged forms representing her fears wrestling with lines of hope. It was messy but authentic, a reflection of her journey. With each stroke, she absorbed her turmoil, channeling it into something tangible. Emotions had always been her muse, now they became an ally in her pursuit of growth. This practice became essential. Each session, she tackled new elements of vulnerability, transforming them into explorations of resilience. As the deadline for the gallery approached, Sarah felt both exhilaration and trepidation. She immersed herself in creating a cohesive body of work that captured her story, the full spectrum of her artistic evolution. The battle against self-doubt became palpable with every piece she finished, a testament to her progress and willingness to confront her insecurities. Determined to harness her fear, she reached out to an old mentor for advice, someone whose robust artistry she respected. During their reunion, he probed deeper with incisive questions, challenging her to articulate the emotional layers behind each piece. These interactions ignited another spark within her. Suddenly, her art became a conversation rather than a presentation. The act of collaboration infused her with purpose, the realization that sharing her vulnerabilities could resonate with others, yet, echoes of doubt lingered, whispering that she still had much to prove. As Sarah prepared for the upcoming gallery showing, she meticulously curated her portfolio, choosing pieces that told not just her journey but the lessons embedded in her struggles. Standing before a mirror in her studio, Sarah practiced her introduction for the showing, rehearsing lines aimed at instilling confidence, hoping to convince herself of her worth. But just as she finished, an unsettling thought emerged. What if she was doing this for the approval of others, not for herself? Would she be able to separate her identity from their perceptions? As the day of the gallery opening approached, Sarah faced the agonizing decision of whether to break free from the chains of others' expectations. Was she ready to take full ownership of her narrative and present it authentically? The clock was ticking, every tick amplifying the intensity of both her anticipation and anxiety. With a surge of determination, she picked up her phone, her fingers hovering over the contact list. She was ready to invite someone who might understand her journey, a fellow artist who had once inspired her to push boundaries. It was time to lean into discomfort and cultivate an honesty that could resonate with others, and yet, as she dialed the number, a single thought pierced her mind. What if, in opening up to another, she unearthed not only her artistry but also something deeper, lurking beneath the surface, the very essence of who she truly was? As Sarah listened to the ringing tone of the phone, her thoughts raced with the gravity of her choice. Inviting a fellow artist into her journey felt monumental, akin to exposing a well-guarded secret. What if this step would lead her deeper into self-discovery, or worse, expose her vulnerabilities for public scrutiny? As the call connected, her breath caught in her throat. "Hey, it's me, Sarah," she said, trying to infuse confidence into her voice. The friendly tone on the other end was instantly reassuring. "I was wondering if you'd like to meet up. I'd love to get your thoughts on some work I'm creating." The conversation flowed, revealing her hesitations and the monumental moments leading to this point. Instead of judgment, she felt acceptance and understanding, which emboldened her. In the days that followed, fueled by this newfound connection, Sarah ventured into a realm of creativity that felt both thrilling and terrifying. She transformed her studio into a sanctuary of experimentation. The walls, once blank canvases, became a vivid tapestry of color, emotion, and raw expression. Painting went from a solitary act to a shared exploration of artistic integrity. Each piece bubbled with inspiration from their discussions, embodying her gradual shedding of self-doubt, yet, every late night spent in the studio was accompanied by the looming deadline of the gallery opening and an undercurrent of self-doubt. As she painted, Sarah could feel the weight of expectations bearing down on her. While her mentor had instilled a sense of purpose, the voices of naysayers echoed even louder within her mind. During a night of intense creation, frustration erupted. She hurled a tube of paint across the room. It splattered, marking her pristine floor with chaotic color. In that moment of reckless abandon, something profound shifted within her. Instead of cursing her lack of control, she picked up a brush and gestured wildly at the canvas, letting instinct dictate every movement. It was liberating unrestrained freedom in the chaos. The chaos represented her evolution, an acceptance of imperfection. As strokes collided, each element became a visceral exploration of her inner battles. This pivotal moment invigorated Sarah's spirit. She began documenting her thoughts alongside her art. The process of journaling her emotions was cathartic. She articulated her struggles and victories, sifting through layers of fear to uncover the meaning beneath her artistic expression. The words flowed easily, revealing insights about her motivations. She was not merely painting for others, she was exploring herself. However, the more honest she became with herself, the greater the anxiety looming over her. Were these creations enough? Would the audience understand her deeper message, or would they dismiss her work as mere attempts to garner sympathy? The idea of vulnerability still unsettled her. It reminded her how easily external judgment could shatter fragile self-assurance. With the gallery opening looming insidiously closer, Sarah found herself caught between two conflicting desires: her yearning for validation and the newfound desire to present art that spoke truthfully to her experience. That night, she made an urgent decision. Instead of curating her portfolio solely for external approval, she began to choose pieces that felt like personal milestones. As she meticulously selected her work, the weight of the question loomed larger: was she prepared to unveil the raw, unfiltered version of herself to the world? Each piece represented a layer of herself she had stripped away in the pursuit of authenticity, yet the thought of laying her soul bare terrified her. Finally, as the day of the gallery approached, Sarah sat in her studio surrounded by her creations, each one whispering tales of resilience. The time had come to own her narrative, every struggle, every triumph. Yet, a single thought clawed at the edges of her mind: was she truly ready to embrace the possibility of being understood, or would this moment reveal the depths of her insecurities? Only the upcoming gallery opening stood between her and the most profound revelation of her life. What awaited her on that day could either cement her resolve or break her spirit entirely. In the days leading to the gallery opening, Sarah felt the walls of her studio closing in, each brush stroke resonating with tentative hope and crippling self-doubt. The exuberance of creation dulled under the oppressive weight of anticipation. What should have felt exhilarating transformed into a looming specter of uncertainty, triggering an array of sardonic whispers in her mind. Critics in her imagination debated her choices, analyzing each color, each form, as if they could deduce her worth from the canvas. Every evening, as she scrutinized the selected pieces, an invisible chasm widened between her artistic aspiration and the weight of perceived judgment. Each canvas stood as a mirror, reflecting both the vibrant edges of her creativity and the stubborn fringes of her fear. The ever-approaching date felt like an anchor pulling her below, reminding her that vulnerability and exposure were not mere risks, they were terrifying realities. On the cusp of a new day, Sarah woke up feeling drained, entangled in the threads of self-doubt that had woven their way into her routine. In the stillness of her studio, she faced her reflection in the glass-paneled door. Tired eyes, a furrowed brow. Deliberate action often fought against indecision, yet now the struggle bore down heavily. She grabbed a paintbrush, fumbling to push herself beyond this suffocating state of inertia. To create, to express, to be, this was her meditation, her rebellion against the impending fear. In a spontaneous decision, she invited her fellow artist to her studio. This choice ignited a flicker of hope, rekindling the spirit of collaboration that had once fueled her enthusiasm. Their conversation ventured beyond aesthetics, probing deeper into purpose and intention. They dissected the fear of judgment, the yearning for sincerity, and uncovered fears rooted deeply within her. "I've been holding back," she admitted, her voice trembling. "What if they see right through me and realize I'm a fraud?" Her friend leaned closer, a knowing smile breaking the gravity of the moment. "Sarah, we're all flawed artists. Every stroke is a risk, but it also has the power to transcend our insecurities. If you hesitate, what's left unsaid, unpainted?" This simple truth echoed in Sarah's mind, weaving itself into her understanding of art and identity. It became clear, her vulnerability was not just an invitation to judgment but a means of connection. Each piece she selected for the gallery now represented a piece of herself, raw, multifaceted, and undeniably human. With renewed urgency, she threw herself into her work with breathtaking intensity. Chaos transformed into creation, the frantic energy of her brushstroke embodied her story, reflecting both her triumphs and tribulations. She instinctively began to integrate more of her written reflections into her visual pieces, fusing them until the lines between art and self-expression blurred beautifully. Yet as the deadline loomed, the voice of self-doubt clawed at the edges once more. What if the audience dismissed her thoughtful design, failing to perceive the depth she believed was there? With a heavy heart, she surveyed the final pieces, fighting the instinct to shy back into the shadows of safety. The final night before the gallery opening, she lay awake, the moonlight casting ethereal shadows across her room. She had a choice to make: remain ensconced in the cocoon of self-doubt or embrace her narratives, to let go. The moments she had shared, the inspiration she had ignited, all wrapped into this singular opening. It was in the silence that she acknowledged a new kind of truth. Behind ambition lay the essence of who she had been: raw, unfiltered, and beautifully flawed. As Sarah drifted into an uneasy sleep, A thought flickered brightly in her mind. Would the assets of her journey be enough to carry her, or would she find herself shattered amidst the reactions to her unveiling? The morning brought the crisp clarity of decision, one she felt both terrified and exhilarated by. She strode to the mirror and, for the first time in a long while, accepted her reflection not as a flawed artist, but as an evolving creator. The gallery was only hours away, but deep in her heart, she had already begun to face the intricate layers of her own artistry. The clock was ticking down to a revelation. She was ready to confront the moment that could either launch her career or leave her questioning her worth as an artist. An unexpected encounter awaited her at the gallery door, one that would challenge everything she believed about herself. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the city skyline, Sarah stood outside the gallery doors, her heartbeat syncing with the rhythmic pulse of excitement and anxiety. She could almost hear the whispers of her father encouraging her, reminding her of the power within her art. This was not merely an exhibition, it was a culmination of transformation, a manifestation of her journey through uncertainty and self-discovery. She took a deep breath, gathered her courage, and stepped inside, ready to share an untold story. The vibrant atmosphere enveloped her as art lovers and industry leaders mingled, appreciating the varied expressions of creativity around them. Sarah felt the surge of determination coursing through her. Tonight, she would unveil not only her art but her authentic self. No longer would she allow the judgments of the past to distort her narrative. Each piece in her portfolio reflected moments of vulnerability, painstakingly illustrating her evolution as an artist and a caregiver. As she welcomed guests to her pieces, the confidence she had built in her interactions earlier in the week came rushing back. "This work embodies my journey, a dance between chaos and clarity," she would say, pride swelling in her chest as onlookers nodded appreciatively. The stories behind her sketches resonated deeply with the audience, who gathered closer, intrigued by her unique perspective. Her words flowed effortlessly, painting her experiences as beautifully as she had painted her canvases. Throughout the evening, the tension she had feared began to dissolve. Conversations erupted, unraveling into dialogue about artistry converging with life experience. One moment stood pivotal. A respected curator approached her, eyes gleaming with curiosity. "Your ability to blend narrative with emotion is stunning, Sarah. It's rare to see an artist so raw and honest." This validation was a turning point. She felt it settle comfortably over her like a cloak of security. No longer burdened by fear of exposure, she realized that sharing her story elevated her artistry. Each person who engaged with her work brought pieces of their own experiences, creating a tapestry of shared understanding, a collective acknowledgement of the chaos faced and art born from it. As the night wore on, Sarah found herself surrounded by newfound connections, each sparked through authenticity. Nathan joined her, a proud smile resting on his face. "I knew you had this in you," he affirmed, the sincerity in his voice igniting her spirit further. The culmination of their support transformed her fears into validation. Her vulnerabilities had indeed become her strengths. Under the gallery lights, she disclosed the profound connection to her father's legacy, how his influence intertwined with her creative process. Guests were captivated, not just by the artistry, but the reality she articulated brilliantly. "Art doesn't exist in a vacuum, it blooms where life's tumult is embraced," she told a small group captivated by her journey. This was her moment of transformation, a recognition of her right to occupy this space, to assert her voice, and to celebrate her resilience. The evening culminated with feedback she had once only dreamt of hearing. "This isn't just an exhibit, it's a movement," a distinguished critic declared, prompting applause as she stood, caught between disbelief and elation. The culmination of months of self-doubt melted away into pure affirmation. Sarah knew she had reclaimed not only her narrative but had entered a realm of artistry defined by courage, creativity, and truth. That night, a pivotal choice crystallized within her mind. She had conquered her fears, she had shared her vulnerabilities, and she grasped the possibilities awaiting her, no longer a caregiver shackled by guilt but an artist carving her own legacy. Standing amidst applause, she felt the long shadows of self-doubt shrink to insignificance, replaced by an empowered light that illuminated her path forward. Sarah left the gallery feeling not only validated but invigorated, a renewed commitment to her craft and a defined purpose in her artistic journey. As she stepped out into the cool night air, her heart buoyant with hope and confidence, she knew the road ahead would be filled with both challenges and joys. But for the first time in years, she felt prepared to face whatever came next. Embracing her identity as an artist, she was ready to amplify her voice, inspiring others with each stroke of her brush, a testament to the transformative power of embracing one's truth. Now is the moment to seize your own transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support creators like Sarah. Comment your reactions and theories about her journey and share your personal experiences. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.